All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What an exciting moment to be on this show once again. And today promises to be a special show. I promise you I'm not going to speak any Chinese, but we will all speak English today, and we shall all understand ourselves. And once again, I just want to welcome you. Please make sure that you contribute, make sure that you are engaged, and do me a favor, send a text message to someone, that, okay, the show is live. Tonight show is live. Make sure you share this video if you are watching this on YouTube or on Facebook. Like this video, share this video at least 10 times with someone. Okay, you don't know whom you're going to be helping. All right, having cleared that, let me bring in all our guests, and I'm going to be starting from Dr. Selena. Introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back again. My name is Dr. Selena Egamasi. I'm a family nurse practitioner, a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and I also have my doctorate in nursing.
Awesome. Over to you, Dr. Nwamaka.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Nwamaka Emeram. I am a certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, as well as a family nurse practitioner, and it's good to be here today.
Awesome. And I, Chief, I believe seriously now that your sound is okay. Introduce yourself to our audience. Oh, no. The sound is still not there. And I could not just read your lips very well. I would have loved to just interpret what you are saying. So try once again and see if you can exit, then come back. So as we continue, let me bring my co-host, Mr. Alex, to introduce himself.
My name is Alex Wahiri. I'm co-hosting with Pastor Emmanuel Adibola. You're welcome to the program.
Awesome. And before I bring in the host of this show, I hope you know that what happened yesterday has not ended yesterday. We are still continuing. So before we bring in the host, why don't we just welcome her with this?
Happy
Awesome. So join me to welcome Dr. Keyna as she introduces today's topic, and also welcome all our audience. You're muted.
Thank you so much for that happy birthday song and introduction. I am Dr. Keyna Menokor. I am a mental health nurse practitioner as well as a family nurse practitioner. Welcome Selena and Dr. Nwamaka to the show, and welcome our audience from all over the world. Today's show, a couple of weeks ago, we treated mental health issues on this program. It was a very engaging topic that many were yearning to have more of. And so we decided, and we promised actually, that we would have a part 2. And today we have Dr. Nwamaka joining us on the show. We looked at the impact of life changes throughout the adult last episode. And it's not that we neglected children, adolescents, but we ran out of time and we couldn't. 1 hour is just not enough to talk about everything that is happening in the world and how life-changing situations happen. So today we are going to hone into children and adolescents and how to manage these conditions. I'm sure very many people might think that children are do not have mental health issues, but because children are our future, our tomorrow, it is important that we will take a look at these situations in this population and see how vulnerable they are and see what we can do to assist the parents and the guardians and the youth so that we can have a better tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. As I said, today is a special episode of this show. So please just permit me as to keep discussing, we'll keep celebrating, and I promise you we will land well. I hope we all have an agreement. All right.
Ooh, yeah. Very, very many happy reasons.
All right, okay, it's just going to be a touch of it, just a touch of it. Don't forget yourself, we're still on the show. So over to you, Mr. Alex, as we kick off the show.
Yeah, today, like Dr. Keyna said, we are going to focus on children, adolescents. So the Ekema, I think it might be good if we start with which group form the adolescents, who are the children, and how do life changes also affect them. We can take off from there.
Yeah, any of you can go first.
Oh, okay. Who are the children that are affected by mental health?
Yeah, can you just give us a little link about how life changes and affect children?
Yes.
And who are these people we call children, and who are the adolescents? Is there any dividing line?
So life changes that can affect children, whether it be adolescents or younger children. One life change is divorce in families, separation in families from mother and father. That's a big life change that can affect every child's mental health, whether it be adolescents or small children. Essentially, most times kids complain that maybe they probably were the cause of the divorce, or maybe they should have done something to keep their family or their parents together, or maybe they should have, paid attention or made better grades. They seem to always self-blame of the reason why maybe that, their families are being separated. Divorce is a big, huge factor. Bullying in school, especially with adolescents, it's another life, like a change that can affect mental health. Bullying from peers or even bullying from family members is a big issue that children and adolescents go through.
All right.
Thank you for that. Dr. Wamaker, Dr. Wamaker, could you define for us who are children and who are adolescents?
Hello, everybody. So we have, the different stages of adolescence. You have, children who are, for the most part, less than 10 years old. And then you have the early adolescents, and then you have the middle, where you have the late adolescents, which are usually that we refer to as the young adults. So children from like 10 to 13 years old, that's when you have the early, and then the middle is from 14 to 17, and then 17 to 18 years old. So these this particular group, they're all defined as adolescents. They all go through mental health. Children less than 10 years old also go through all kinds of mental health, just like Dr. Selena mentioned. There are several factors that affect their mental health, be it divorce, be it challenges going on in home, be it physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. They all affect children, and if not treated, could actually develop into serious mental illness that they eventually take into adulthood.
All right.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
All right. Okay, Mr. Mr. Alex.
Yeah, Dr. Ekemasi, let us look at the stages of growth, stages of development of these children. Does it in any way, how does it affect their life changes, and how does it impact on their mental health? Because I know they undergo some stages of development.
Yeah, it affects their mental health and their life change stages by, well, let's use bullying as or actually something, trouble in the home. Essentially, these are growing children, and if they're being verbally abused, emotionally abused at home, there's certain stages where the brain is still developing. And when you yell at children, when you're, constantly badgering children or beating children, you essentially cause brain damage. And then they grow up to feel, probably have conduct disorder or oppositional defiance disorder, where they will start arguing back. So that's one of the things that can happen in the stages in growth.
Okay, but what I'm also asking is, the children undergo a certain stage, they undergo certain stages in their development. How does this development affect them, their physical changes, physical development? That's what I'm asking. Like
Dr. Selena.
puberty and all stuff. How does it affect the kids? You don't understand what I'm saying?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to Dr. Imero.
No, it's
Okay.
you.
Okay.
And still, I wanted you to clarify more.
Right.
They undergo certain stages in life, certain
Right.
physical stages. How does it affect them? And how does it impact on their mental health?
Let me jump in.
Okay.
At every stage of children's life, from newborn to they become adult, like Dr. Selena explained, the brain is still forming, and there's multiple changes that occur, and both physically and mentally. From 0 to 3 years old, there are certain milestones that children are supposed to attain in life. And at any point, if these milestones are not reached, it actually has consequences on how it impacts both in their mental and their physical well-being as they grow. And so these things manifest when they become adult. So if that's what you're asking, yes, there are different stages in children's growth, and at each time there are things that they're supposed to attain emotionally and physically, and if those are not attained, it has consequences that affect them, and many of them can become mental health issues as they grow up.
Okay. I'm also trying to find out, when a boy is growing up, at a point in time, you begin to see certain things in yourself. And sometimes you don't understand what is going on around you. The same thing with a lady. A lady grows up, and at a point in time, he begins to see a number of physical changes as a result of maturity. So sometimes these things are strange to the children. And if they are not properly handled, some people argue that they are also part of the developments that affect the mental health of the child. Sometimes they may think they're sick when they're not actually sick. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying. Hello, are you getting me?
Yes.
Yes. For instance, a lady who is a young lady doesn't know anything about menstruation and all that, and all of a sudden she didn't know about it and is bleeding. And nobody has ever told her about it.
And luckily or unluckily, maybe she belongs to a single parent, either single dad, especially. I saw a movie like that and began to cry to dad, I'm bleeding, and the dad doesn't know what to do. Also, the dad run to pharmacy and begin to find solution to bleeding. So does that help?
Yes, I guess in that kind of situation, it can cause embarrassment and shame on the child, um, and probably seeking advice elsewhere outside of the home because they don't have the support that they need to properly take care of themselves in those situations. In that moment, probably, the advice that the child essentially has to do a physical exam at some time with the pediatrician. And this is where the pediatrician can step in and be involved to help with that and advising what the father, the single father, could do, get advice from a family member that's a female or a friend or something like that. But yes, it can cause, embarrassment, shame, probably isolation, seclusion, and not wanting to probably talk or about what they're going through. Or, it is embarrassing if you don't know what to properly do to take care of yourself while on your period or your cycle.
Does Dr. Nwamaka want to add to what she just shared?
Yeah, if I might just jump in, I guess we're discussing some of the challenges that teenagers or adolescents do go through, right? So several, and it's very imperative that as parents, as a community, that we're available to guide our adolescents and our teenagers through all these challenges. There are several challenges to touch on. For instance, there's the physical changes that you mentioned. You have the girls growing breasts. They're seeing their period. Their body is changing and all kinds of stuff. And boys as well. They notice that their voice is deeper. A lot of physical changes. Facial hair and things like that. That are all those changes that are happening physically can be confusing for them if they don't have the proper person to guide them through that, to explain to them like, hey, this is what's going on. Your body's just undergoing some changes and eventually you're going to be a full adult and this is what happens, talking about sex and things like that. Those are all discussions that should happen. If they don't happen, if we shy away from those discussions, then the teenagers end up having more problems that lead to mental illness. For instance, teenagers, they as they're going through these physical changes in their bodies, they have some feelings, they have some emotional feelings, they have some urges, they have some things that kind of happen because they're growing. This is all part of life. As parents, as a community, as providers, we really need to touch on those things and talk to them about those things. A lot of times kids are really needed an outlet. They need someone to talk to. They need someone to explain to them, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not sick, like you stated, doctor. There's nothing going on with you. This is a natural part of life. Unfortunately, if we don't touch on those things, they seek the advice elsewhere. We live in the age of social media. You have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have TikTok, unfortunately, that are teaching our kids certain things that should be taught at home, that should be taught in schools, that should be taught in community. Because those topics are not being touched on at the appropriate places, they seek to get the advice elsewhere. They talk to their friends. And who are the friends that they're talking to? They're talking to their peers who are also, teenagers that need to learn as well. So whatever information they get from different sources, they share it with their peers, and the misinformation continues. So it kind of compounds the problem. Of course, there's issue of substance abuse. There are all kinds of issues to touch on. Substance abuse, they use that to kind of help calm their anxiety. And before you know it, we have a drug user. We have someone who's dependent on substances to calm themselves. So there are so many things that we can touch on today. It can lead to educational challenges, health challenges, social challenges, and whatnot.
All right. Before we continue, I hope our audience knows that this program is for everyone. It's for married couples, single parent, and most especially we're focusing on the teenagers, adolescents, young adults today. So if you know someone that is that belongs to this category, make sure that you send this video to that person. Send a text message instead of you doing that work all by yourself. You can just invite him, invite her to your TV, invite to your tablet, to your computer, or just share this video with someone that you know will be of blessing to this particular program. And do also some favor. This is a free program, but what you can do to just pay it forward and also pay back is by liking this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not, and make sure that you are sharing this video. And I also believe that you guys know that we are still celebrating, the host of this program. Yesterday happened to be her birthday, and the birthday still continues. So we have not finished. We are still celebrating. And yesterday happens to be the birthday, as I said, but one of the things that that touched me was many people, like a day like yesterday, they won't be involved in any community service at all. But she still took it upon herself to be involved in a selfless service like this.
Hello, I am Keyna Health. I'm a family nurse practitioner and a mental health nurse practitioner. Today we are here giving COVID vaccine shots, doing flu shots, and COVID-19 testing as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing this service to the community. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And now, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Franca Banaka, and I work with Crystal Family Clinic as a nurse there, and we're giving the COVID vaccine here. We're doing the testing and we're doing the flu shots.
Wonderful.
We're glad to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, let more people come here and get the shots in your arms.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And now,
Awesome. Over to you, Mr. Alex.
Yeah. Dr. Swabon, I don't know whether we can be talking to you now. Are you hearing me now?
Oh, no. We
Dr.
can't still
Swabon?
hear.
Not
We
yet.
can't still hear him. Yes.
Okay. Dr. Wamaka, let us just, what do you consider to be the prevalent problem among the adolescent kids? And what are its implications for mental health? What do you consider the greatest problem facing our youth, the adolescents? And how does it, what are its implications for mental health?
What I consider to be the greatest problem that we have is really lack of communication, not being able to talk to our teenagers, talk to our adolescents, our kids, and them getting the relevant information from us. A lot of times we shy away from such topics. We don't want to talk about, sex. We don't want to talk about the changes that are going on in our kids' bodies. We don't want to talk about, basically lack of parenting, because especially here in the United States, we live in a society that's so fast paced. Everybody's working, everybody's busy, and we send our kids off to school. And by the time we get back, everybody's tired. We're trying to get homework done. We're trying to, get the basic things done. And we don't really have the time to sit down with our kids to talk to them about what's really going on with them. A lot of our children are being bullied at school. They're being bullied at school by peers, and believe it or not, by some other educators as well. And it's not okay for us to just look the other way and just act like we don't know what's going on. When kids are going through any kind of emotional issue, if we don't talk to them, and we don't really try to provide them the necessary information and comfort them and start them in the right direction, they're going to turn to social media. They'll turn to TikTok, and they'll turn to their friend that's doing drugs on the side, because that helps calm their anxiety. I really do feel that if we can just pause and try to give our kids the time and talk to them like, hey, how was your day? What happened at school today? What's going on? And a lot of times they might not want to talk to you because they feel more comfortable talking to their peers, but we have to keep talking. We have to keep trying. Eventually they will open up and let you know what's going on. And that's essentially the first step to getting them the help that they need and getting them the support they need.
Okay, Dr. Selena wants to add to what she said.
Yeah, one of the I want to add to. I mean, communication is a big issue. If you don't know how to communicate with your child, they'll end up, communicating to someone else. But a lot of adolescents are having experiencing peer pressure at school, and peer pressure to do things that they know is not the right thing to do, but in order to belong, feel a sense of belonging in school, especially when there's bullying going on, and then the adolescent now wants to do whatever it takes to be a part of the clique or the crew in school. They'll now, do all the things that they do that are essentially wrong, like probably drug use. Drug use is a huge problem in the adolescent community in school. They're selling drugs in school. So if we don't communicate with our kids to let them know about this problem, at least talk to them about it to show that they should be comfortable to come to you if this is brought up to them. So they know how to, probably report a situation and know that drugs is not the answer. So, yeah, drugs and peer pressure in the school is a big problem with adolescents. And it could also affect them mentally because essentially they're thinking, okay, I feel so sad because nobody wants to be my friend. I want to be friends with these people, and let me do what it takes to be their friend. But they have that lack of self confidence, self esteem to stand on their own and fight against peer pressure in the school.
All right. I have a follow-up question as we discuss this very important topic. Dr. Nwamaka, I wanted us to see if we can touch up on those and explain some of those diagnoses that are more prevalent with children 10 years and older and under. And then, maybe Dr. Selena can talk about those diagnoses and explain those, adolescents so that people can know when they hear things like OCD, ADHD, what those mean. When do you medicate the patient? When do you consider taking your child to get some help? If they're inattentive at school, can't get schoolwork done. So I think we should, touch on that topic a little bit.
Absolutely, gladly. If I may just piggyback on what Dr. Selena said earlier, the communication issue being a big part of the problem that we're facing. I just wanted to add real quickly that in addition to talking to our kids, we need to pay close attention because our kids, they're adolescents. They're at the age where they want to be relevant. They want to, they want you to consider them relevant, what they're saying to be relevant. They feel like they're adults and they want to be treated as such. So while you're giving them that sense of independence, you also want to pay close attention to what's going on. A lot of kids like to mimic what other kids in school are doing. Like I've seen a lot of teenagers that they cut themselves. So you as a parent, you want to pay close attention to your children, pay attention to their bodies, pay attention to what's going on. When I see children, I even when I see them via telly, I like for them to show me their arms. I want to see what's going on. And what I've come to realize a lot of times is that some kids that are cutting, even though they might not have a history of mental illness in their family, they're doing this because their friends are doing this. They're doing it because, oh, my friend cuts and I felt like it would be cool to do things like that. So just wanted to touch on that. I know that's a huge issue that we can, expand on later on, but I just thought I'd just touch on that real quickly. Dr. Keyna, just to touch on the diagnosis that are prevalent with teenagers, adolescents. Usually, of course, you have anxiety disorder. When a kid comes to us and we're evaluating the child, most times the parents are like, oh, they're so anxious. They're anxious, they're depressed. We don't know what's going on with them. We need to figure out what's going on. They're not paying attention in school. And a lot of times when we have kids, they're already diagnosed with ADHD, and they want us to treat them because they can't pay attention in school. But inherently, what is the most the most issue that we see is the anxiety part. So when a child comes to you, you see the anxiety. I really do feel as a professional that anxiety is it's pretty much the main symptom that you see in all the mental health disorders. Of course, the OCD diagnosis that you mentioned earlier, the disruptive mood dysregulation, the the oppositional disorder and things like that. You see a lot of anxiety. You see a lot of patients that have anger, they have agitation, they're aggressive. And in addition to just being a regular teenager, being a child and going through the hormonal shifts, the hormonal changes and all that, they have anger, they have agitations and all that. We try not to diagnose kids with with bipolar disorder and things like that, because we consider the hormonal changes that kids go through. So usually we diagnose them with disruptive mood dysregulation, because they're at that stage where their mood is changing. They're going through a lot of factors that affect how they relate to people, the mood, agitation, and all that. But eventually, once they pass 18 years of age, if we notice that the symptoms are prevalent, then they're really showing those signs of mood disorders such as bipolar and other personality disorders, we go ahead and diagnose them at that point. So having said that, we have a lot of children that come to us, and the parents are complaining that they're not focusing in class. They're not able to focus. They feel like they have ADHD. They would like for them to be on medicine to help them focus more. But fundamentally, it is our responsibility to really assess that child, to look at what else is going on. It could be problems at home. It could be abuse that's going on at home. It could be other factors that are affecting them at school. It could be a lot of things. You really want to kind of go through, sip through the whole, symptoms that are presented to you before you eventually give that child the proper diagnosis, because it's really, really important you do that. It can be, you can cause more harm, because in our profession, we're meant to do good, right? Not do no harm. But if we go ahead and diagnose that child with ADHD and give them the medicine to help them with ADHD, we might end up causing more problems. So it's really important to look at all the factors, what's going on at home, what's going on at school, what could be causing them that anxiety. So you have, of course, the generalized anxiety disorder. You have kids that are not sleeping they're not going to bed on time. They're not getting proper sleep. They're not getting proper rest. If they're not getting proper rest, how can you focus? Just think about us as adults. If we're not able to get enough rest, feel well rested in the morning, we can't focus. Where we also have that issue with focus. Same thing applies to kids. Kids are supposed to get more rest. They're supposed to get a certain number of hours of sleep. If they don't get that, they're not going to be able to focus. So those are the things that we look at before we go and diagnose someone with something like ADHD. You have, like I mentioned earlier, the abuse and sexual abuse, physical abuse, and parents that might have mental illness as well, that's been undiagnosed, that's not being treated. Kids, when they experience these things at home, when they see these things, it affects them. It affects their well-being. It affects how they relate to other people. It affects them at school as well. They can't focus, and they tend to display that type of aggression and agitation. The things that they experience at home in their environment, they experience that at school, or wherever they find themselves. So those are things that we look at as well. So typically we try to we usually just diagnose kids with disruptive mood dysregulation or oppositional disorder. But eventually, when the symptoms become more prevalent, we know that we're looking at a serious diagnosis such as bipolar disorder and whatnot.
Wow. Thank you so much. What a comprehensive. I wish we should just stop now and continue part 3 later on, because even my head is full already. But I believe seriously that we need this information, and I hope that these kids and the parents that really need this information we get hold of this, because trust me, these are all valuable information. Well, by the way, I hope you still remember that we are still celebrating. I have not forgotten, we're still celebrating. So let's continue with the celebration.
Many happy returns. Happy birthday. That is all I can say. I wish you many happy returns. Is your mommy here? Oh yeah. Is your daddy here? Oh yeah. Are your friends here? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Is Kola here? Oh yeah. Is Uche here? Oh yeah. Is Amadu here? Oh yeah. Every once in a year, there is a special day to celebrate and jubilate. All your family and friends, everyone must attend to wish you well, to hear and tell. Oh, happy birthday. That is all I can say. I wish you many happy returns. Happy birthday. That is all I can say. I wish you many.
All right, we will continue in a minute. Over to you, Mr. Alex.
I think Selena need to respond and add to the questions Keyna asked before we get to Dr. So.
Right. And while you're doing that, Selena, Dr. Wamaka mentioned cutting. People might be wondering, what is cutting? So could you address that as well? You're muted.
Sorry. Cutting is either a superficial, which is like maybe lightly, or deep penetration of the skin. So, adolescents, especially young girls, that I've seen in my office, are cutting themselves when they feel a little agitated or they feel really depressed and sad. And they say, when I ask them, "Hey, why do you cut your skin? Don't Doesn't it hurt?" They said, "No, it makes me feel better." And I wonder, I'm like, what does that mean? It makes you feel better. Pain makes you feel better. So some kids will tell me, some female, especially adolescents, will tell me that, they sometimes they feel a relief of what they're going through, because the depression that they're going through is so much that when they cut themselves on their skin, on their arms or on their thighs, I've seen it even on the legs sometimes, but the major places are on the arms and on their thigh area. They feel a sense of relief. Um, and sometimes, the biggest thing that we worry about is that when it goes from cutting, then it can lead to, essentially cutting their wrist, which is there's a major artery right here on your wrist that you can bleed to death. And that's what we worry about as providers for these young girls, and also boys too. But essentially, I've seen it more than in adolescent girls. Um, and sometimes, with the cutting of their arms and everything, some children do that for a sense of maybe attention seeking, attention from their parents that they're not receiving. So they'll cut themselves in order for their parents to finally hear them out or listen. So that's why, what Dr. Merriam said is so important to communicate. I mean, communication is key to anything in life, especially with our children. Um, so yes, cutting is basically a superficial or deep penetration of the skin, the dermis layer of your skin. Um, that can also lead to infection if they keep doing it. So, because we don't know what they're using. Are they using a razor? Are they using I've seen kids use like a mechanical pencil, the lead of their pencil. So if you're using lead penetrating to your skin, you can cause other issues that might require a tetanus shot. So you don't get some kind of toxicity or lead poisoning in the bloodstream. So, what we do in those situations, we talk to the parents and we ask that the parents agree to remove all sharp objects from the house. uh, to where the kids cannot find them. That's the first thing you do. You put a plan in place, an agreement in place that this is what you will do to help your child. Um, and you know, some most times parents don't know that their kids are cutting. Why don't you know this? Because you're not paying attention to your children's bodies. So that's why we have to hone in and look at the cues that the children um, produce or say or do. You know, just the abnormal. Maybe this is what my child typically doesn't do. What's going on? Hone in on those cues. Listen to those cues because you never know what your child is trying to communicate with you, but they're scared to say it, or they're embarrassed, or they're shameful to say it. Um, a lot of kids do this too because they're being bullied at school. I have a patient that I'm seeing right now, and she cuts herself because nobody likes her at school. She sits alone in the cafeteria by herself. Nobody eats with her. She goes through the whole school day by herself. Nobody to chat with her. So she, at the end of the day, feels sad and depressed, and she cuts herself. And she says she feels better when she does that. And as providers, or even as a community, we shouldn't we shouldn't frown upon it. We shouldn't laugh at it. We should just be there to help that child and support them and help them to understand that this is a danger to yourself. You can essentially hurt yourself, which the child probably doesn't want to kill themselves. They just want to be free of the depression that they feel, the constant depression and sadness, the overwhelming, sadness that they feel. And you would never understand that unless you go through it yourself. So that's what I want to say and touch on with cutting. Um, I'm not sure if I need to answer another
Yeah,
question.
thank you. While we're on adolescents, before we get to treatment modalities for these young folks, you talked about the girls, the females. Also, some of them, due to body image, they are not eating.
Yes.
So
Anorexia,
anorexia and bulimia.
bulimia.
Can
Mhm.
you, Dr. Nwamaka, can you talk a little bit about anorexia and bulimia?
Yeah, absolutely. Anorexia and bulimia, that's a huge, huge issue facing adolescents, especially girls. Um, we live in a society where body image is everything. We live in a society where we see things on television, and we project a certain body image as the best body image to have. So now that you have a teenager that's growing up, might have a little bit of weight on themselves, or might you know have might not look like your typical teenager. They start having issues with their bodies. They start trying to do harmful things so they can look like what they see on TV, what they see on Instagram, what they see on Facebook, and be a TikTok person, TikTok star, and things like that, because they think that's cool. um, we have to pay attention to our children. That cannot be overstated. Not just the mental aspect of it. There's the medical aspect of this. There's as kids are, as they're overeating and throwing up and things like that, they're actually messing up their bodies, their teeth, the acid, the acid that is, that they vomit when they try to, vomit their food and all that. That actually corrodes corrodes their stomach and, esophagus and all that, their teeth and all that. So it's not just, the unhealthy part of eating and throwing up. There are other health challenges that follow suit as well. Um, and this happens prevalently in school, in elementary school, in high school. You see all these kids that are trying to be thin, and sometimes they overdo it and they end up being so thin that they look sick, but they don't feel like they look sick. Somebody else might look at them and say, hey, you're extremely thin, but they feel like they're perfect, or they feel like they actually need to get thinner. So they keep doing those things. So we have to pay attention to our children. We have to talk to them and let them know that, hey, everybody's not going to look the same. There are people that have a tendency to have a little bit more, meat on their bones, and there are people that are built to be slim. You just have to embrace your body, love the body that you're in, be healthy. Exercise and be healthy, and and love our kids the way they are.
Awesome. Before we continue, just a minute. I believe seriously that we know the program that David Domenico Foundation has been doing now for almost a month or thereabout, like 2 months, So, and there's this GoFundMe that I believe we can all be in supportive of, especially even if you are a panelist, you are supposed to support 10 times those that are not panelists. So I'm holding you responsible, Dr. Selena, Dr. Nwamaka. I will personally call you and to be sure that we get those, because we have so many mental issues that we need to help. Anyway, I'm just kidding, but please do us a favor, share the link with your network. So, and I'm going to be calling Dr. Keyna to kind of talk about the program, since we don't have Dr. Bright here, and we still have the link. Of course, for the GoFundMe, that you are, even all our viewers, and even if you have donated, if you have supported, you can send the link to somebody. Okay, your $10, $100, $1,000, $1 million will go a long way to help the foundation. So over to you, Dr. Keyna. You are muted.
October every year is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So David Domenico Foundation, for the past 5 years, we've been supporting women back in the eastern part of Nigeria, where we conduct free breast cancer screening. So we have them go for mammogram. So far, we started in the middle of October, and we're not limited to October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So it is an ongoing project. We have screened over 200 women, mostly in Imo State, because of the, that's where we have the facility that people can reach at the moment. So once those women are screened, if they are positive, they actually get a free sonogram to confirm any abnormal breast tissues, and from then on, we may refer them to oncologists. So the program is ongoing, is throughout the year. The facility is there, not just for October, but throughout the year. So you can still support David Domenico Foundation with the GoFundMe link so that we can save more women. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I don't know if iChief's sound is okay now. Can you say hi, hello?
Hello, hello.
Awesome. Somebody praise the Lord. That is a good news. I'll be praying on your behalf. I'll be fighting the kingdom of darkness, that every weapon fashioned against your sound and the speaker will not prosper. You are so welcome. Over to you, Mr. Alex.
Okay, Dr. Sub, we've been highlighting the challenges that are facing the adolescents and the children. We highlighted so many things, which I know you are aware of. But at this point, we're now beginning to ask, how do we solve these problems? There are a lot of challenges. Some of them are physical, some are emotional, some are psychological. When do you really start monitoring this? Communication has been identified as one of the critical factors. There is no communication, no adequate communication between the parents and the children. And sometimes things are happening, nobody's taking attention. So from your own vantage point, what do you think we should do to arrest these loopholes and then get the children, the adolescents, back to normalcy?
From my own perspective, behavior is a major indicator. When you see a change in the behavior, when you see a change in the attitude, that's a time to call them to order. You can do that nicely. I think that's the beginning of the time. We need to check with the kids. When the sleeping pattern has changed, when the behavior, dressing, hair coloring, those are when you begin to say, something must be going on. And as a parent, you nicely get their attention by saying this specifically and not generalizing. I see that this is going on, this is going on, this has happened, that has happened, what is going on. If we do that, we can catch them at that point, identify what the issues are, and then if we can't deal with it as parents, then we can get to a professional who may be knowledgeable in addressing it. That's how we start. Thank you.
All right. I know that you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
I know that we've not been able to engage you for the past 15 minutes. So if I have the power to give you the remaining 9 minutes, I will do that. But then it might end up becoming so boring. But I promise you that we grow engage you more than the other panelists within the next 8 minutes. And I would like to also appeal to the panelists. I think we're going to definitely have part 3 of this because it's like we've not even done anything. I've been hearing so many of the underlying causes, but we've not really gone into the issue. What do we do as a parent? When you start noticing all of this, what do you do? What is the responsibilities? And I mean, talking about the care, and also, I mean, so much is involved. We're talking about the diagnosis. I believe we just made mention of 2 or 3 briefly. So there is still so much, a lot. And honestly speaking, if we are going to pay you from the pocket of David Omnetco Foundation, we're going to do that. I'm just kidding. The foundation doesn't have money. So you are so you what you're doing for free, you are doing for humanity. And I tell you what, God will compensate your time. So please, Dr. Keyna will get in touch with you to know your availability for part 3. And I will personally connect with iChief almost 1 hour before the show on part 3 to be sure that the sound is okay before we start. Okay? Over to you, Mr. Alex, as we begin to tidy up.
Okay, one area I really want us to touch about is the area of drug addiction among the youth. The impact of drug narcotics among our adolescents. Most of these narcotics go around among the adolescents. How do we really begin to know what is going on? How do we discover what is going on? At what point do you really intervene to be able to check before harm is done, incalculable harm is done to our adolescents?
So iChief will go first.
Yes,
let me keep my promise.
Yes. Remember, the part of the brain where other mental illnesses operate is the same area of the brain where addiction works. Again, the indicator tends to manifest in behavior, which the children or the adolescents may learn from parents or from peers. In other words, addiction is addiction in the sense that they do the drugs for one reason or the other. Peer pressure can be one, and also personal issues like mental illness, another. And it could be also because it's around the neighborhood they live. Everybody's doing it. They want to be like those people. So those are the areas you begin to focus when it comes to addiction. Some of them now are using vape. Some of them are using marijuana, disguising it in different ways. Some of them are using regular pills, overdosing on pills. So substance abuse is as serious as other mental illness because they operate in the same area of the brain where other mental illnesses operate. Thank you.
Dr. Selena.
Yes, drug use, especially in adolescence, is a dangerous issue. Why? Because, as High Chief said, you know, it, the it affects the part of the brain, especially with depression, anxiety, and knowing that their brains are still growing. Remember, these kids are their brains are still developing, so we have to be careful. And they don't know this that they're causing more harm to themselves by doing and using these drugs. These drugs can also exacerbate other symptoms, like manic disorder or some kind of aggressive or depressive disorder due to drug use, like PCP and heroin, crack cocaine, even marijuana. However, marijuana, can, if you have an underlying mood disorder that's undiagnosed, can cause other manic disorders. What do I mean by manic? Manic meaning, you know, probably just not acting as you should, thinking that you can take on the world, you're untouchable, probably being hypersexual, probably not sleeping for like days on end, um, just creating chaos and being irritable and causing scenes. And this is where, as providers, we have to know, okay, where is this coming from? Oh, they do drugs. Okay, so after you use drugs, this is what happens. So there is a diagnosis out there that we use, um, that mood disorder coming from, drug substance abuse, because substance abuse can cause other psychiatric or psychotic mood disorders.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I know our time is fast spent. We have less than 4 minutes to go. Does Dr. Nwamaka wants to add to what two of them have said?
Sure. Just to piggyback on what they've said so far. Yes, drug abuse is a big issue that can precipitate all kinds of mental illnesses. We really have to look from within, from home. We need to get ourselves taken care of from home before we can go outside, right? I think there's an Igbo adage, a proverb like that. You we as parents, we want to make sure that if we have narcotics and things like that, we want to make sure that those things are properly put up. And if you're a parent that like to engage in recreational, things like drug use, marijuana, things like that, you need to understand that your kids are actually looking at you and they will emulate exactly what you're doing. That is the best way to teach your kids. They will emulate everything that you're doing. And kids out there, just trying it once can actually cause a lot of problems. I have a kid that I saw that never tried any type of substance before. And the day that he tried marijuana, he tried the one that was laced with all kinds of stuff. And he just would not talk and had to be in a mental health institution for several months. So just that once can actually cause all sorts of problems.
Awesome. Okay, over to you, Dr. Keyna.
Oh, Dr. Swabu, I know we barely have a few minutes left over, but I wanted you to just share a little bit about what type of therapy can help these children and adolescents that we're discussing.
Generally speaking, in a nutshell, we use motivational intervene and solution-focused therapy when we're dealing with these young people. Motivational intervene in the sense that see the consequences, see the impact of marijuana in your grades, see the impact of drugs of abuse in your family relationship. With that, we motivate them to see what life used to be before they started doing drugs. How was the relationship with friends and relatives before they started doing drugs? If they are not where they are now, as a result of your drug use, consider changing. We encourage them, motivate them to consider changing. So we focus pretty much on motivational intervene and solution-focused therapy to get them to get back to the beam so that they can move without under the influence of drugs all the time. That's in a nutshell what we can do to help with people, young people who are doing marijuana, and then disassociate them from peers that are causing problems. Try the much we can to redirect them to places or to people, to activities that can stimulate the serotonin in the brain so that they don't have to rely on marijuana or other drugs to satisfy their
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I mean, it's been a long 1 hour, and trust me, the 60 minutes just look like a 6 minutes. And I know that there is still a lot to cover. As I said, I'm pleading on behalf of the audience, those that have seen the video and those that have not seen the video and those that will see the video. So Dr. Keyna will get in touch with all our panelists. We know it's a sacrifice and a huge one by the side, and I know that God will compensate your time. So let's just quickly spend the next 2 minutes to kind of tidy it up. We normally do what is called a take home. Okay, what is your take home? Let's say someone just connected right now, or what we'll be discussing. What is that 1 minute take home? In marketing, we call it elevator pitch that you want someone to go home with. So I'm going to start with Dr. Nwamaka, and I am the timekeeper. I'm watching. Over to you.
All right, pressure. Okay. One thing that I would like for parents out there to take away from this program is that if you have a kid, you have an adolescent that falls into any of these categories that we've discussed today, I would like for you to know that there's hope. There's hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. There are a whole bunch of functioning adults in the society today that were terrors to their parents, that had all kinds of issues, but you know what, they turned out okay. So I want you to have hope. There's there are ways that we can redirect these kids and get them back on track.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Selena.
The takeaway I want everyone to know is communication is the number one solution to a lot of problems that we face, especially with children. We want to make these children to be comfortable to talk to us, to be comfortable to come to us. And in order for us to do that is to communicate, talk to your children, sit them down, make them feel okay that you can come to mom or dad and tell us anything, that we will not shame you, we will not keep you astray. So we need to communicate and instill in our kids that they can trust us, that we will help them if they need that help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, Chief.
For me, let us know that mental health is a reality. Adults have it, adolescents have it. We seek solution whenever we see something that we don't like, that we don't want. It's not a time to scare the children away. It's not a time to judge or blame them. It's a time to seek solution. So if your child is doing something you don't like, if the behavior is not what you expect, seek solution, not condemnation. Seek answers. Seek the help of professionals. Children do grow to be adults. The brain does heal, like any other part of the body that is sick. Thank you.
Awesome. And as I always say, Mr. Alex represents our audience at one side, while I represent at the other side. So, Mr. Alex, what will you say your take home is from today's session?
What I'm taking home on behalf of the audience, like you said, is that first of all, when you need to be a little bit more careful, more vigilant in trying to find out what is going on among your kids. And when you begin to see anything that is not too normal, anything that is a little bit strange, try to build a bridge of communication between yourself and your kids so that they can very normally interact with you and tell you what's their problem. And immediately you are able to do that, then you can seek a solution. These are my that's my package.
Awesome. Yes. As you all know my stand, I believe in all of these we'll be discussing. That's why we discuss them. But at the same time, also, I like to bring spirituality into every topic that we discuss. You don't also ignore, the other side. Some group of people could just make up their mind to make a child a problem for a family. I believe we all know that. And that is where the role of prayers comes into play. That's where the role of prayer. So even though we do therapy with all these kids, even though we take them to therapies, medication, you don't overlook the role of prayers. What do you expect as parents where the 7 days walk? Even when a child, we are talking about development. The child is young, you are not taking that child to church, the child doesn't know how to pray. So what does he or she learn how to do than to whatever they learn on social media? So teach up your child on the way he or she should grow. So when he or she, grow up, he or she will not depart from it. Okay, so there are a lot of things that, honestly speaking, I know that there has to be a problem for the doctors to get paid, for the therapists to get paid. But there are a lot of problems also that parents. I mean, Dr. Wamaka talks about parenting. Parenting is more than just buying big toys and guns, toy guns for all our kids. Your time. When was the last time you had a dinner with your children at the dinner table, and so on and so forth? And I pray that God will help us in Jesus' name. Okay, so before somebody will say it's not my portion. Yes, there are a lot of things that is not my portion. There are a lot of things that God forbid, but life permits. So always make sure that you put God in that picture. So before we bring back the host, okay, I just want all the panelists to sing that song again. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
All right, over to you, Dr.
Oh, wow. What a wonderful show again today. I want to thank all our panelists. And like Pastor Emmanuel said, it seems like we might have a part 3 to all this again. Thank you all, the panelists. Another good show. Mental health issues are real. That's one thing everybody would understand, both for children, adolescents, and adults. How we handle these situations is important. So watch your children. As the children grow, know what is normal with them and know when things are beginning to become abnormal so that you can seek for solution, seek for therapy, and so that we can get these children so that they can be their future. So it is important that we empower them with the right information, the right attitude to life, but challenges are guaranteed in life. So that's an important thing to take home today. Challenges are guaranteed. It's how we handle it, how we learn how to cope with these situations is what makes us be what we become in the future. I want to thank our listeners for another wonderful show, and we will see you all in a few weeks. Thank you.
Uncle, good evening. I am not fine.
What is your problem again?
Uncle, ever since I lost my father, this has been very, very difficult for every one of us, especially me. I want to go back to school, but I don't have enough funds to go back to school.
Don't mention my daughter. Don't mention. Education cannot be your problem now when I'm here. Your father was a good man to me now. In fact, he was a mentor. The billionaire that I am today, he made me now. So don't bother yourself. You know how many pharmacies I have in my free education scholarship scheme. So don't worry about your education. I can train you from even primary to the varsity level.
Uncle, thank you. God bless you. Uncle, thank you.
You get to the point now?
Yes.
In fact, what you are going to do for me now, select from these two universities. University of Michigan in Alabama or Oxford University in United Nations. Which one do you prefer? In fact, don't bother yourself. I will do that. Punch it and I will make it for you. You get to the